A lot of times our kids come home after school and they melt down. We've talked about this before. And so we want to set them up for success after school by providing them with simple decompression activities, taking a break, going on the swing, playing outside. Maybe it's a sensory bin for them because it's regulating to put their hands and their arms and their feet in the rice or the beans. So allowing them, like Rachel said, that unstructured time to just do what they need to do to feel good and to have that exploration is so important for children of all ages.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica, and this is All Things Sensory by Harkla.
We are both certified occupational therapy assistants, and together with Harkla, we are on a mission to empower parents, therapists, and educators to help raise confident and strong children of all abilities.
On this podcast, we chat about all things sensory, diving into special needs, occupational therapy, parenting, self-care, overall health and wellness, and so much more.
We are here to provide raw, honest, and fun strategies, ideas, and information for parents, therapists, and educators, as well as other professionals to implement into daily life.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, welcome back to All Things Sensory by Harkla. I'm Rachel, and this is Jessica, and we are so excited to be back for another episode.
Today, we're going to answer a question that we received from one of our YouTube videos. So if you didn't know, we also have YouTube videos that are not podcast videos, which might be confusing.
We have a lot of content.
But we have a lot to talk about, so we wanted to do both, I guess. Anyways, the question that we got on our YouTube video was about sensory bins. So the question is there an age where sensory bins become irrelevant? I didn't realize they weren't just to give preschoolers something to do. My almost 8-year-old is a sensory seeker. Would he still get something out of doing sensory bins? And so when I thought of this, I was like, oh yeah, sensory bins are not just for toddlers or preschoolers.
No,
I use them with older clients quite frequently.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about sensory bins is you're not going to cause any harm to a child if you try a sensory bin. If you have an 8-year-old who loves, tactile input, or they're a sensory seeker in any regard, and you try a sensory bin, it's not going to cause them any harm. So I would say absolutely try it and let them pick out what sensory mediums they want to use. Take them to the store with you. If they want to do pinto beans, have them help scoop the pinto beans. Go to the bulk section and pick out pinto beans. If they want to do rice or noodles or oats or tapioca balls or whatever it is.
Just the balls from the tapioca?
Well, yeah, because they're like Orbeez.
I know. It's just funny.
Tapioca balls.
Yeah, get some tapioca balls.
You know what I mean.
I was just thinking too, over the summer, we needed a video, I think for a YouTube video, of oobleck. So I had Logan help me make the oobleck, and then we needed to do some videos with the oobleck. And once the videos were done, I asked him if he wanted to clean up, and he said no. He wanted to keep playing with the oobleck for a while. And he's 10, almost 11. So I just think it goes to show that once you provide something like a sensory bin to a child, even if they're a little bit older, they might want to engage in some just free imaginary play with it.
Yeah. I have 2 toddlers, and they're both kind of in different seasons of sensory bins. Sometimes they stress me out a little bit because they usually end in, actually, I'd say they stress my husband out even more. I always share videos of him like cleaning up, vacuuming, rage cleaning after we do sensory bins. Generally after I get home from work and we talk about it, I'm like, oh, let's set up a sensory activity. And it always goes downhill. No, it doesn't. My kids are definitely into them, but Trip is almost 4 and he will do a lot more like pretend play and like scooping and playing and makes more stuff with them, where Austin will kind of scoop it and then pour it on the floor, and then scoop it and pour it on the floor, and
Dang,
more of that
toddlers.
Exploratory because she's 2. And so it definitely takes a while for them to figure out how they enjoy playing with it, what works, what doesn't work. And then it will take you, the caregiver, some time to figure out how to make them functional. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is how to make these sensory bins more functional, what what goals you can target by using them, and just really how to make them as beneficial as possible.
Yeah. And then we do have another YouTube video, not podcast, but YouTube video with 5 ways to use sensory bins. So that will be linked in the show notes. So you can also watch that. But some of the reasons why we love sensory bins for all ages is that it targets tactile processing and modulation. So whether you're using a wet sensory bin or a dry sensory bin, you're really teaching the brain and the body that this tactile medium is safe. So you're teaching tactile modulation when you are using a sensory bin, which is really important for our children to be able to process different types of tactile input throughout their day so that they don't get nervous when they encounter a new tactile input, or they can eat a variety of food textures. So really focusing on teaching the brain and the body how to process that tactile information is so important.
Yeah, so they're great for whether you have a sensory seeker who's going to like cover their arms in oobleck or slime or shaving cream, or you have someone who's more on the sensitive side and they don't want to get their hands messy, or they don't want to explore because their brain is saying, danger, 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 this tactile medium is unsafe. So we can help them explore and learn that getting messy is okay, touching these different textures is okay. And it's also really helpful for children who are on the pickier side of eating too, because we know that when a child is comfortable with a food texture on their hands or on their body, they will be more comfortable with it in their mouth, and kind of those hand-mouth receptors can connect a little bit more. So while we're not advocating to eat the sensory bins, it's a great way to help kind of bridge a child into exploring more orally, if that makes sense.
Yes. Also, for our sensory seekers, oftentimes a sensory bin is regulating to their nervous system because they are seeking out more tactile input. So the child who is, rubbing the shaving cream all over their body just needs more tactile input. So it can actually be more regulating for them. Or with a bean sensory bin, the child who is like putting their entire body in the beans, maybe it's regulating for them.
Yeah, they have a high sensory threshold. They need more of that input, more of that tactile input in order to feel like we feel right now just sitting down.
Yeah.
But also we have these nice tactile chairs that are giving us lots of input too. The next beneficial area that they're helpful for is the visual system, visual processing, visual modulation. We like to put treasures inside the sensory bins, things for them to visually find. We like to give them the opportunity to find an item in a busy background. That figure ground is really helpful to work on. You think about looking in a junk drawer, or if you're at the grocery store, you're looking for one specific item and you have to visually discriminate between all of the other things. It's a little overwhelming, so we can use sensory bins to really help and work on that underlying skill.
Yeah. Additionally, you can work on sequencing and executive function skills, higher level cognitive skills by incorporating different cognitive based tasks like matching, letter and number recognition. You can do a lot with speech and language. I've worked with speech therapists who use sensory bins with older children to build those speech and language skills using, different toys inside of the sensory bin. But again, because sensory bins can be regulating for some children because of that tactile input, not only are they working on those underlying cognitive language skills, simultaneously they're helping the child regulate. So there's so many.
There's so many. Fine motor development, of course. You can use scoops, spoons, you can use tweezers, tongs, chopsticks, scissor tongs. You can use any of those fine motor activities to help kind of develop those fine motor muscles of the hands, building them into obstacle courses as well, crawling, any type of activity you would do during the day, during a session, you can include it into a sensory bin.
Executive function skills. This one is really great for those older kids because you can have them set up and clean up the sensory bin. This is great for things like oobleck or slime, where the child has to follow a recipe to create the sensory bin. And maybe you can even, if you're a therapist, you can go to the store or with your clients, or you can have the clients make the list of ingredients they need to bring to their next session. And then they're going to follow the recipe to make the oobleck or the slime. And then they get to engage with the sensory bin after they've made it. And then they also have to clean up afterwards. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those executive function skills can be addressed when you're having the child set up, clean up the sensory bin.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to have the student or have your client bring all the supplies, if you have all the supplies at the clinic or the school or wherever you're at, or at home, you can have the child go and find them. They can search for them. They can, if you're a parent, they can go to the grocery store with you and find them. So even if they're not bringing the items, adding one more layer there, having them just go out and find them. Or maybe they have to ask another person at the clinic, hey, do you know where the glue is? And that's another activity that is challenging for some kids. And it's a good way to work on that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Some other things that we like to do for our older children with sensory bins is to make it really multi-sensory, to address school-based activities, cognitive skills, already mentioned executive functioning, but if you can incorporate spelling or math, handwriting, any other thing that they're doing in school, I'm trying to think of all the school, geography, maybe you have a puzzle of a map puzzle, and you use the sensory bin to hide all the pieces of the map puzzle, and then you're incorporating geography into the sensory bin.
Great.
That's the only thing I could think of.
I really like to use blindfolds and have the child close their eyes if they're comfortable, figure out what they're feeling in the sensory bin. Let's say we're using a bin of rice and maybe it's back to school theme. So we have all these school items hidden in the sensory bin. So they pull out a pencil and they have to feel it and say, okay, this is a pencil. Great. And they do the next one and it's a scissors or an eraser or something, but they have to use that somatosensory processing, proprioceptive system, tactile system working together to figure out and identify what it is. Works a lot on stereognosis. So if you are reaching into your purse, reaching into your backpack, and you don't have your vision, you're like, I need to grab my chapstick. What does it feel like? You can figure that out based on your sense of touch and proprioceptive system. And that's another really important skill to work on. Yeah. So many things.
Yeah. I'm also thinking for parents who are wondering if their older children should be doing these sensory bins, like the question we got. School year is starting. So if your child is bringing homework home, can you incorporate their homework using a sensory bin? Logan is just starting 5th grade. Actually, today while we're recording this is the first day of 5th grade. And so I'm just imagining the different types of homework he's going to bring home, math homework, spelling homework, that kind of thing. And, can we create some sensory bins with, the letters of the alphabet to practice his spelling words? Yes. Can we create sensory bins with different math facts and add some sort of obstacle course with our giant beanbag? Mm-hmm. Just because not only is it more fun and engaging when you do it that way versus just sitting at the table to do homework, but it's multi-sensory. Like he's going to retain that information so much better because it's multi-sensory, because he's engaging multiple sensory systems simultaneously. So it's more fun, it's more motivating, and he's probably going to remember it better.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Another important factor of including sensory bins is just giving them the opportunity to explore it how they want. You don't always have to turn it into this big multi-sensory obstacle course activity,
that's structured
activity. You can just let them pick it out, let them play, let them drive their cars in it, let them just feel it and play with it. Maybe they want to listen to music while they do it. Maybe they want to watch a TV show and they want to just chill for a minute and just, put their hands or their feet. Just let them explore it as well in a free, non-structured way to, with what feels good for them. Give them that opportunity to choose and don't always place those demands on them.
I'm just imagining that could be a really great after school activity.
Yep.
A lot of times our kids come home after school and they melt down. We've talked about this before. And so we want to set them up for success after school by providing them with simple decompression activities, taking a break, going on the swing, playing outside. Maybe it's a sensory bin for them because it's regulating to put their hands and their arms and their feet in the rice or the beans. So allowing them, like Rachel said, that unstructured time to just do what they need to do to feel good and to have that exploration is so important for children of all ages.
Yep. So if you are interested in adding a sensory bin to your daily routine, to your sessions, to your classroom, a few of our favorite like tactile mediums, we do wet, we do dry, we do mixed, we do natural, we do all the things. Natural? I'm thinking like outdoor items.
Yes.
Yeah,
no,
like dirt,
I know.
mud,
I just
sand.
thought it was funny.
Thank you.
Unprocessed.
Yes. Unprocessed, yes. Rice, beans, you can put essential oils in them as well. Oats for younger kiddos.
Or older kids.
Or I'm just thinking like taste safe, if needed.
Oh, sure.
But noodles, wet noodles, dry noodles, different shaped noodles. I really like the Spaghetti-O noodles that you can buy in bulk. Dry or wet. Those ones are great. Yes. Tapioca balls.
Get yourself some tapioca balls.
Right now we have the jumbo Orbeez at our house set up. And I know Orbeez are very taboo right now.
Controversial.
Very controversial because if a child ingests them, it's very dangerous. So disclaimer, if you use the Orbeez, the water beats at all, just proceed with caution. Like that's on you. It's not on us.
Yeah, we're not liable.
No. Shaving cream. Corn. Oh, the holidays are coming and the giant corn sensory bins at the corn mazes. I just sit in those and I love those.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm honestly a little overstimulated by all the kids who are like laying in them and rolling in them and throwing them. And my kids are also like, what's happening? But they'll play in them, but they're also like, what's happening?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's very overstimulating.
Very much so.
Some really good sensory bin ideas that use like recipes for our older kids would be oobleck, slime.
Oobleck is cornstarch and water.
I know, but it's
for anyone who doesn't know.
Oh, yes.
Because we keep saying that. People are like, what the heck is oobleck?
Yeah. I mean, just
cornstarch
just Google it. There's a variety of different slime recipes that use different ingredients that you might already have, or maybe you need to go buy. There's a lot of different recipes with shaving cream, so you can mix shaving cream with other ingredients. Maybe you allow your child to have an experiment and see what different types of sensory bin they can come up with different ingredients. And then maybe they have to write the recipe of what they created. That would be a great one for older kids.
Yep. Flour mixed with
Baby
conditioner, oil. Cornstarch mixed with oil, conditioner, lotion, sand, obviously, dirt, rocks, seashells, leaves.
Anything and everything can be used as a sensory bin.
Yeah.
It's true.
And really, you can put it in a box. You can put the box away. You can pull them out later. That's kind of what we do at our house. I just have them stored away. We don't have a ton, but...
You don't need a lot.
No, we'll do like Halloween themed ones. I did a Valentine's Day one.
The themed ones are fun.
They're fun, especially in the clinic setting because you can pull them out for the different themed obstacle courses and weeks that you do with your clients. Yeah.
So I think that's about it.
Yeah.
All right. So sensory bins, not just for toddlers or preschoolers. You can use them for all ages. Just get creative, put your sensory goggles on and do it.
Have fun. If this episode was helpful, leave us a review on iTunes, leave us a review on Spotify. We appreciate those. Take a screenshot, share it, tag us on social media at All Things Sensory Podcast. If you're listening, hi. But if you're watching us on YouTube, hey, this is fun. This is great.
If you're watching us, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Okay, with that, we will plan on seeing you next week.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening to All Things Sensory by Harkla.
If you want more information on anything mentioned in the show, head over to harkla.co/podcast to get the show notes.
If you have any follow-up questions, the best place to ask those is in the comments on the show notes or message us on our Instagram account, which is at harkla_family or at All Things Sensory Podcast. If you just search Harkla, you'll find us there.
Like we mentioned before, our podcast listeners get 10% off their first order at Harkla. Whether it's for one of our digital courses or one of our sensory swings, the discount code SENSORY will get you 10% off. That's SENSORY.
Head to harkla.co/sensory to use that discount code right now.
We're so excited to work together to help create confident kids all over the world. While we make every effort to share correct information, we're still learning.
We will double check all of our facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art.
One doctor or therapist may have a different way of doing things from another.
We are simply presenting our views and opinions on how to address common sensory challenges, health-related difficulties, and what we have found to be beneficial that will be as evidence-based as possible.
By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or your child.
Consult your child's pediatrician or therapist for any medical issues that he or she may be having.
This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast.
Thanks so much for listening.